Yes, I'm the volunteer chair of Susquehanna Group of Sierra Club. And I'm pleased that we've got a good presentation lined up from Mark Bowers, who is here with us. He's going to be giving an overview of the Two Rivers Greenway trail system, which is a recreational trail system that has been worked on for probably, what, 2 decades at least, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, long time. It's made a lot of headway, and there's plans to expand it even further. So we'll hear about that. And just to let you know, these meetings, in case you're new, the meetings of the Susquehanna Group are free and open to the public. You don't have to be a member. We do appreciate you being a member because that gives us a little bit of funding so that we can help do things like donate to organizations that treat old growth hemlocks to keep woolly adelgids from killing off those hemlocks at various different parks in the area. We help Waterman Conservation Center with their work as well. Sarah Hodder is here, who we're going to be giving an award to, and that helps, with maybe buying some things that help out with that Confluence Park garden. So there's lots of things that we do that some funding helps with. And so anyway, I just wanted to let you know that these meetings are always free and open to the public. And let your friends and neighbors know that too, in case they're interested in what we do. Also, we're now in the midst of a New York State legislative session, which is under negotiation for the state budget, as well as several legislative items that we'd like to see passed, including the New York Heat Act. And we also want to keep the work on climate change going. We'd like to have the Cap and Invest program actually be implemented. So if you would be so kind to contact your elected representatives from New York State, including the governor's office, and let them know that you care about saving a habitable climate. You care about New York State living up to its climate law that it passed more than 5 years ago, and that you want to see legislation passed and you want to see us transition to renewable energy as quickly as possible, even faster than what the goals are that were laid out in the New York State's own climate law. We've got a few events coming up. We're going to be doing tabling for the Earth Fest events. There's 2 of them. Well, one is Saturday, April 26th from 8 to 1 at Shenango Valley State Park. There's another one Sunday, April 27th from 10 to 4 at Recreation Park. And then the other thing that's happening, Christina Fuller here, who's sitting at that card table, in addition to taking care of this audio video equipment that I appreciate, she also is one of the co-leaders and the founder of what's called the Move Out Project, which is a huge project that she came up with while she was a student at Binghamton University. It saves and collects material that students leave behind when they go home after being in university or even now Binghamton Community College, so that instead of going to a landfill, it gets collected and donated to be made available for charities. So it's a great program and volunteers would be appreciated. That work is getting ramped up right now. And there's Facebook presence on that. So if you look it up, you look up Move Out Project, move like moving. There's a symbol that looks like this, that circular thing, and they've got a sign up, and also it's on our website as well. Our website is Sierra Club Susquehanna Group. If you do that search on Google, you'll find it. And there's also a field trip that's coming up. This is coming up May 28th, 8:30 to 11:30 a.m. It is a trip to this person's home. He's Dr. Steve Kress. He's a well-known ornithologist. He's going to be opening up his home, giving a tour, not the home inside, but the yard, his land. He's got like 40 acres. 40 acres, yeah. And he's going to be talking about how to create a bird-friendly habitat, how to attract birds, talk a little bit about bird conservation, native trees and plants, how to set up and take care of bluebird boxes, how to make even lawns a little more friendly to wildlife. And then they're hoping to follow that event with a trip to what's the name of the place? Plantsman Nursery in Groton. And there you can buy native plants. So go to our website and look up the March edition of the newsletter, and you'll see details. You need to sign up because the participation is limited to 15 people. And there's an email for Scott Loffer and also Mary Cronk that you can contact them by email and see if there's still space. Okay, so you can still sign up, and you can find details from them and also from the newsletter. So that's promises to be a great trip. And then what else can we say? Next month, May 20th, we're going to have our members, their normal general meeting again. And Chris Berger is going to be talking about how the waste crisis is a driver of climate crisis as well, because it creates methane, which is a big greenhouse gas from decomposition of organics, mostly food in landfills. And then June 28th, June 17th, there's going to be a talk by Dr. Don Hughes. That's going to be virtual only, so no meeting here at the Vestal Public Library, but he's going to be talking about how PFAS, the forever chemical, can end up traveling through wastewater treatment plants and end up in the sludge that gets packaged and sold even as fertilizer, gets sold as bagged fertilizer even at some landscape places or even at Home Depot or places like that. I'm not sure who sells it, but you can end up contaminating your own garden with PFAS. It's something that we're trying to get banned in New York State through legislation. Okay, so the next thing is I'm going to invite Scott to come up here, but we want to recognize Sarah Hodder, the master gardener, for all her work in planning, designing, and volunteering and coordinating all the work on the Confluence Park Garden. We really appreciate that. So Scott, you want to invite Sarah up here?
So Sarah, you want to join me and all the other gardeners? You're invited to come up front. Yeah. So this plaque, it's heavy. You're gonna have to have some help maybe from this young man. Take it home, but I'll read it. So this is the Linda Stuckert Environmental Award, and it's recognizing people who have made a significant contribution to the environment in our area. One of the previous winners was Augie Mueller, and his wife Joan is here tonight. And I don't think we have any other past recipients, but we started giving them in 2005. And other than 2 years, we didn't give them out. We've been trying to recognize people ever since. So Sarah is certainly deserving of winning it. And I said I was going to read this. So recognizing Master Gardener Sarah Hodder for her years of creation and care dedicated to the pollinator garden in Confluence Park, where she and her volunteers, don't mind getting their hands dirty while promoting pollination and beauty. So yes, it's a pollinator garden. It's important to encourage pollination. And we actually see pollinators in our garden, don't we, Sarah?
Yeah.
So we started this in 2017. This is the 9th year. Can you believe it? And she has been there every year planning, directing us, keeping that place beautiful. So we certainly think you deserve it.
Thank you very much. At first, when he said it was going to be a stone, I thought they were just going to put a rock down on Confluence. You know, I'd have been happy.
No, it'd get stolen.
It'd get stolen. Yeah, it would have gotten stolen. Anyways, I brought some notes because.
Yeah, we want to hear from you.
But anyways, I do want to thank you. I'm grateful I'm delighted and I'm very humbled to be selected for this award. I must say, however, that I can't really accept the award without acknowledging the tremendous support from many other individuals. And I first want to mention Mark.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm sure.
You know, he will be the first one to tell you that, you know, Sarah, you're always speaking French. Because I usually approach Mark and say, you know, Mark, we can do that. We can really do this.
We.
Yeah.
And he says, you speak French with the we, but then he gives me that smile. And he puts on his work clothes and his work gloves and we dive into the next project. And we've had many through the years, that's for sure. And there are others. Nicholas Ballard's not here today, but he works for the city and he's been very, very helpful for the Confluence Garden and he's been a delight to work with. And of course, the dedicated volunteers. They help out monthly.
How many teams you got now?
We have two, and that's plenty at this particular time, really. They come monthly and I appreciate their help. But you know, we do work, but it's also a time to stand around and chit chat. We laugh and we also learn. And really, the environment, we are trying to make it better for the environment. Now, I wasn't sure how many were going to be here tonight, but, you know, I know that they're volunteers, but more importantly, I consider them my friends. So I do accept this award, but I do so knowing that I am receiving it only because of the support of many. So thank you.
Oh, yeah.
We hope you find a place to put it somewhere. It could go outside.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
In your-
anyone
your
else,
garden.
Jim, don't wander off. Anyone else here? Mark?
Yeah,
anyone?
I just want to say, she's wonderful. Um,
Smart. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can go home.
She is also president of the New York State Bluebird Society, and I'm going to put in a plug. Our meeting this year is May 3rd, right here at Ithaca. It will be in the morning at
Cayuga Blue Hotel.
Cayuga Blue with 2 speakers. And then in the afternoon, we're going to be at the Lab of Ornithology.
Our first speaker is going to be talking about bird flu. And our second speaker is going to be talking about native plants. And then in the afternoon, we're going to be going up to the Lab of Ornithology that recently was refurbished and it's absolutely lovely.
Yeah, they spent millions to redo it.
I'd like to say that in addition to all the positive experiences people have when they get together to work, it's a beautiful place. And we had a Canada goose watching our every move this last time we were there.
Yeah. A
And,
mallard. It was a mallard.
well, there was
There was a
no,
goose.
there was
Oh,
a
I
Yeah.
didn't see
yeah,
that.
Oh.
and he came across the mallard
Yeah.
watching us too.
I'm working and I look 10 feet away and here's this male mallard. He's
Yeah.
not flying away or anything.
And the place is transformed from what it was in 2017, when we had to watch out for hypodermic needles and when the police became aware of it, they wanted to be able to pull their car in and have a straight shot down to see what was going on. Well, nobody complains now. It's just transformed and it's a beautiful place.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, yeah, so.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Oh, hey, Mike, how you doing?
Yeah.
Good, how are you guys?
Mike was one of our gardeners.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right, yeah, he's in
Um,
Florida.
I guess you carry that and I'll carry this.
We got a box.
Oh, okay.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, and we got a little.
Yeah, thank you for everything. That's, all that work, that's, that truly has transformed that place where the two rivers come together, the Shenango River and the Susquehanna River that, our club takes its name after. That's a very important spot, going back centuries even from when Native Americans used to live there. So it's a really nice place now. So if you haven't seen it, check it out in the spring when things are blooming. There's two pictures in the current March issue of the newsletter that shows what the transformation looks like from winter time when things are all drab to when it's all blooming, which then it looks spectacular. So next, now we've got Mark Bowers here. He's going to be giving this presentation on the recreational trail system called the Two Rivers Greenway. The goal is to provide a brief overview of the history and evolution of this Two Rivers Greenway, and it's also going to provide a status on the current build out and future plans. And he's also going to talk about background and rationale for the creation of a friends group to help maintain, enhance, and advocate for this regional network. The presentation is going to provide insight into the development of design guidelines for the system, including signs and things like benches. Community engagement and support are critical to the future of any greenway system. To give you a little background on Mark, he is a 33-year veteran of the New York State Department of Transportation. He's spent 30 of those years in the region's Planning and Program Management Office. During his tenure in the Planning and Program Management Office, he gained a broad perspective in project management, program management, as well as local project administration, including the Federal Aid Reimbursement process. He's well-versed in public engagement, having worked with numerous local governments, elected officials, and the public. Mark has also been closely involved with sustainability efforts at the Department of Transportation. He spent time as the region's pedestrian and bicycle coordinator. And additionally, he's got hands-on experience with nonprofit boards, most recently being board president at the No Theater in Binghamton, and is currently a board member for the Center for Gender, Art, and Culture and their umbrella organization called the Department of Public Art, a citizen-led arts group which promotes and implements public art projects. Mark has received numerous awards for his work, including the New York State Department of Transportation Award of Excellence and the Parks and Trails New York Healthy Trails, Healthy People Award for work on the implementation of the Greater Binghamton Greenway. Thank you, Mark, for joining us tonight and for all the work that you have been doing and that you continue to do, I hope. Okay, thanks, Mark.
So first and foremost, I just want to thank you all for having me. It's been like a decade or more since I was at the Sierra Club. I think the last time I was here, you were in Endicott. Then you were honoring your good friend, Augie Mueller. And Scott Riegel and I got invited to that meeting and we came down because we had been working with Augie on pedestrian and bicycle stuff. So, again, what I'm going to try and do, could you put up the, okay. I was going to joke and say that this is now the morning commute to Binghamton University on the Route 434 Greenway, but everybody would know I was a liar and that this was actually from the bridge pedal. But we're hoping possibly in the future we'd have that kind of traffic. Could you hit the next one? So here's just what we're going to try and go through, and I'll try and go through this as quickly as I can. We want to give a history of the origins, the status of the implementation in the current projects. I want to talk a little about why we want to have a volunteer-based friends group. We're going to talk a little bit about Mike Haas was actually going to be here tonight, but he had a conflict with another meeting. We're going to talk a little bit about the design standards that we developed for the Two Rivers Greenway to brand it as a regional network. And then I'd like to kind of hear from people here about what they think about the Greenway, what they know about the Greenway, and get some feedback on whether people here think that getting a friends group put together for the Greenway would be something that would benefit the region as a whole. So, yeah. So first of all, I want to just give a little overview. Do people know who BMTS is? I worked at DOT. We lived in a world of acronyms, so we could speak for an hour without saying a word, right? Well, it's the Binghamton Metropolitan Transportation Study, and they're the local metropolitan planning organization here. The map shows their, if you look at the legend, the planning area, which encompasses all of these towns, the cities, and the villages within that. And the criteria for MPO is that the census has an urban area of over 50,000 people. So urban area with over 50,000 people based on the US Census, there could be a metropolitan planning organization. BMTS is housed by the county in the county office building. It basically consists of two entities, a planning committee and a policy committee. The planning committee is responsible for technical assistance, for doing studies, working with each of the individual municipalities to develop projects. And the policy committee, okay, are the ones that make the decisions about what local projects, okay, on the local system, including trail projects, get added to what's called the Transportation Improvement Program, which is a listing of federal aid projects for a 5-year period in the urban area. And Scott Regal is my colleague over there. He's the regional pedestrian bicycle coordinator for them. He's done a tremendous job. And when I worked at DOT, he and I were a tag team to try and promote the Two Rivers Greenway. So this wasn't the vintage when we did the initial plan, but if you can believe this, the first plan that was done for the Two Rivers Greenway was done in 1977. Not much came of that. We were talking about that earlier about, you know, since the 70s, environmental issues, transportation issues, the role that transportation plays in the environment, the out-migration to the suburbs, all of that. This didn't get a lot of traction in 1977, and you'll see here that 1996 was the next time this was really revisited. So that's a pretty sad commentary, but you know, it is what it is. That was 20 years before you could get the political willpower to actually spend money to do this particular study, which was just a basic pedestrian and bicycle plan. But out of that pedestrian and bicycle plan, in 1999, we actually got at this time it was called the Binghamton Metropolitan Greenway, and the study, we actually came up with a trail master plan, okay, an implementation strategy and guidelines. And one of the goals was to have this utilize the rivers, because we are at the confluence of two rivers. It's wonderful. You know, with flood protection and stuff, we've kept people from access to the rivers, which has always been a problem. So out of this study, and I'm going to drill down on these things, this was the scope of the study. So we're talking about 6 different municipalities, 2 counties, because there were plans to do trails in Tioga County. And you can see here from all the squiggly lines, there were trail facilities that were considered. There was also on-road bike routes, okay? A lot of work went into those on-road bike routes. You can see those in yellow on here. And we now have, as maybe you know or don't know, a set of signed local on-road bike routes, including segments of the Route 17 bike route, which goes from, you know, all the way from Western New York, Lake Erie, all the way to New York City, okay? So bike route 17 passes through our area as well as our local signed bike routes. And what this study did was it drilled down and it came up with a strategy for individual municipalities to begin to pursue building portions of the Greenway with money that they might have, whether it was the city of Binghamton, whether it was the town of Vestal, whether it was village of Endicott, town of Union. There was interestingly 2 sets of trails along the Hiawatha out toward Owego, Marshland Road area, from Appalachian to Marshland Road from the east end to the west end. So this is very expansive. And what this study did was, because it was an implementation and feasibility study, it drilled down even farther. So in the study, you had details like this for each of those segments that you just saw, where there was suggestions for where these routes could go and where we could build. This study also looked at the environmental impacts of the feasibility, and we had a lot of, I will say, successes over the years, working with the Army Corps of Engineers and the Department of Environmental Conservation to get inside flood walls, to get along the river, and to be able to program trails in this area. So again, there was a tremendous level of detail in the 96 plan, and that was really what served as the impetus for us to be able to go forward and begin to engage local municipalities in trying to build out this greenway. Now, 2012, we went back and we tried to rebrand the greenway after there was a number of pieces that were built. And let me do this first. So these are some of the existing trails. You can see Binghamton has a lot. Excuse me. There's Vestal, or the green, obviously, are existing trails under construction, and proposed future connections. And I'm going to talk about those future connections a little bit farther down the line. So we had some slides in here for the town of Owego. That little section is their riverfront walk that they have in the village itself. That is actually part of the Two Rivers Greenway, and it's signed that way. These areas here, you can see again, the town of Vestal, Binghamton, these things are already built. We have 16, a little over 16, almost 17 miles already built. So, and most of that happened over the last, I'll say, well, not this last 10 years, I have to go back 10 years, the last 15 or 18 years probably, a lot of this has gotten built. Now, one thing I want to say here, this slide is really interesting. I'm excited about this, and this is something that people I think can get behind, is that the Broome County has submitted a grant, okay, to get funds for a feasibility study to build some of the missing connections for the Two Rivers Greenway. So when you look at this, some of the key pieces are here. The connection from the Route 434 Greenway to get to the river bridge. This is the village of Johnson City, where they have the abandoned rail spur in the village, which also would include not only the river bridge, but also the right of way up to where the concrete plant is and the asphalt plant is, which would ultimately connect to the Vestal Rail Trail. So the Broome County submitted this grant. It's called the Build Grant. It's federal funds, so that'll be interesting to see how that works. I know, talking to Stephanie at the county, they had to tweak their application so there wasn't any, when the AI looks at it and looks for those woke words, they didn't have too many woke words in their application. So they're very optimistic that they're going to be able to get this grant. And what this grant would do, it would be a planning and feasibility study that would include preliminary design and all the environmental work that would need to be done to look at all of this dotted section here, getting these individual sections built. And if you think about it, I mean, right now, people have been at Confluence Park. At Confluence Park, you can go all the way to Shenango Bridge now, if you think about it. The trail goes all along the Shenango River Promenade. You get all the way to Sherry Lindsay Park. You have to go out onto the roadway, but you get to Bevere. We engineered a ramp under Bevere. You're into Otsonango Park, Otsonango South, Otsonango North. You come out to Front Street. There's bike lanes up. We got bike lanes on Front Street all the way to Shenango Bridge. So that's been quite an accomplishment. Also in that corridor, if you think of the west side of the river from Prospect Street to Bevere Street, as part of Prospect Mountain, we built a bike lane there. So there's a connection to Otsonango Park from the city of Binghamton that's protected along the west side of the river. So, and you think now we have the Route 434 piece done. You can go from Confluence Park, across South Washington Street Bridge, all the way out to the university. Right there, you have to stop. But that's why this thing is exciting for me, and we really need to support this, because the original plan had this going from the university down past the bus garage, and there's an old piece of the towpath underneath the 201 bridge. And so you could get underneath the 201 bridge to the river bridge. And if the village of Johnson City can acquire the rights of way for the abandoned rail there, which they had in their downtown revitalization initiative, but that project didn't make the final cut. But to be able to have this river bridge here to connect the village and do behind the pharmacy school and the college and nursing, and then be able to get to the Vestal Rail Trail. That's to me is such a huge critical link to really make this look and feel like a regional network. Because right now you get out to the university. I called over there today to Nick Cochran, but I couldn't get him. They're looking at building themselves a piece across the front of the university here from the end of the Route 434 Greenway to connect here between what's at Murray Hill and Bud Hill, and possibly be the beginning of getting to that river bridge, if in fact the village of Johnson City, and we need our elected officials, if you know any elected officials, to get behind that, not only the study, but trying to pressure the railroad. Because the railroad spur that's here that goes through Johnson City is no longer in use. Gowdy Station is closed. It's going to be taken down. It's an environmental hazard, we know. Binghamton Pipe and Plastic moved to Endicott. So there's no need for that spur. And to have that river bridge, that was one of the contentious things about it, is the long-term maintenance of the bridge and stuff. But when you're only putting pedestrians and bicyclists on that bridge that used to hold fully loaded trains full of coal, that bridge is going to be there for a long time. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of maintenance involved in that. They should know by June or July whether they're going to get the money for this study, which is a good time frame. And it would add, between the section in Johnson City and the university, and then connected to the Vestal Rail Trail, about 12 miles more to the system. But when you think about it, this connection, especially in Johnson City and from the university to get to that river bridge, would really, really move this to the next level as far as a regional network. Because like the chamber and stuff, they've been part of the French group stakeholder meeting we had, as far as tourism, to get people to come, to stay and then go out and ride their bikes and be able to use this facility. So that would be a really big thing for us to be able to get this done. Did I hit the wrong arrow here? Oh no. Oh, there we go. Yeah. Can I go backwards? Where's the backwards? Oh, that one, okay. I just wanted to go back to this. I had changed this slide, but as I said, in 2012, Delta Engineers and Synergy Graphics, we rebranded the Greenway. It used to be the Greater Binghamton Greenway, and then before that, it was the Binghamton Metropolitan Greenway. And we really wanted to begin to brand it as a regional network, which included all of the signs, and I have more slides in later. Mike Haas was going to be here to talk about this. But we went out to the public, and it was interesting because when we started talking to the public and had public meetings, people were like, why is it the Greater Binghamton Greenway? It's not in Binghamton, it's in Vestal, it's in Owego, it's in the town of Union. And so we said, okay, what do you want it to be? And out of that, they said, well, what's the most common theme? And the most common theme was the Two Rivers. So we came up with that name, and then Synergy Graphics, which is out of Buffalo, Carlo Pesci, came up with the design and the colors. And I think all of you, people volunteering at Confluence Park, everybody's seen the signs in the area, and they're really, I think, really great signs. Okay, and we'll look a little bit of that later. But so we were able to rebrand it, and what the caveat was, even though it hasn't happened necessarily, was that it was intended, because we had an entire design guide for all the wayfinding. Here's where you are on the trail, here's where you have to go, interpretive signing, all of that stuff, that each municipality, when they led a project, okay, they would incorporate the design and put the signs on the Greenway. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. The Route 434 Greenway, I don't know how, when you spend $16–18 million, you didn't include the signs, benches, or garbage cans, but that's just me. I had retired by then, so I didn't get to have a say in it. But anyway, so I'm going to talk about that a little later, because originally Mike was going to do this. But I wanted to put this up here because I get stuff all the time. Mark, you spent all that money on Greenway, I never see anybody over there on Route 434. I haven't seen anybody. Who's even using this thing? And I'm like, okay, I have something for it, all right? Because in 2019, okay, BMTS got some funding and they put out counters on the Greenway, okay? So people that use it know those are out there. So when people ask me that, I tell them, well, you can go to BMTS's website, you can go here to the data, okay, and you can see if anybody's using this Greenway. And I was even impressed with the numbers because they just did the most recent. And if you look at this over here, 2024, 1,000,004. 1,000,004. Okay, last year, and here it is, we're not lying, we have 16 counters out there. Here's where the counters are, here's what the counters reported, okay? The highest one, if you can see here, is the Western Rail Trail Coal House, okay? The second here is South Washington Street Bridge, Otsiningo South, Port Street, this is North Otsiningo, Confluence Park Tunnel, okay? So, and we work all the way down Martin Luther King Promenade, Ovico River Walk, and so on. So when somebody says nobody's using this, just last year, there was 1,000,004, and over here, you can see if the counters went in 2019, it's 8.3 million, almost 8.4 million registered. I don't think these are animals and things walking on the trail, tripping the thing. These are people using the system. And this is really important for us because I think when you go and look at for grant funding and additional funding to help with municipalities or municipalities are putting in an application, you could say people are using this. Yes, sir.
Okay, if there are 2 or 3 people walking abreast along the trail, does the counter count it as one or the full number?
It's a good question. It's a good question. I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay.
So the number should be higher. No,
I think you're right, Jim. that
I
if
think
you're
it-
right next to each other, you're gonna miss the count.
but I think people are somewhat staggered. I think it's gonna pick up the difference, you know, pick up multiple walkers. If Scott Regal was here, he could defend that. I can't defend that. But if it doesn't, and it's only picking up one blurb, then these numbers are actually high.
That's right.
So, which is a good thing, because I think it's important. We made a big investment in this. A lot of municipalities, like the city of Binghamton's been very committed. Town of Vestal's been a great partner, okay? We're trying to get the town of Union up to speed a little bit, Village of Johnson City, especially with what we saw about the study that they're gonna do. But it is getting used, okay? And one of the things when I talk about, you know, why a friends group, we wanna begin to promote this more, okay? So those are pretty good numbers, right? I mean, I was surprised, and I've been involved with this thing for decades, okay? So, but I thought that was good, and the whole idea of it was to do just that. So I have some other notes here to talk about why a friends group. Now, these are the things that came to my mind, and maybe people here have some other ideas, okay? But the things that I had here was to support municipalities, okay? There's a lot of trail systems out there, and I get frustrated when I see sections. I used to take ownership of the section of the Greenway from Confluence Park up to the BU building, and I would clean all the crack weeds, and I would go down there and I'd cut the branches back where the stone was. And it was therapeutic for me, and I liked being out there. People would come by and say, "What'd you do, get arrested or something? You're doing community service?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm working off my community service tonight. Absolutely. That's why I'm here cutting weeds out here." But we've added a lot of additional maintenance duties to small municipalities and things, and they don't have it. So one of the reasons we want to have a friends group is to help support municipalities with the maintenance. Also, we want to engage stakeholders. Everybody's always looking for ways, especially after COVID and even before, to create community. So what a way to get out and be with your friends. Like we heard the testimonies from the people working at the pollinator garden. It's great to get out and be with people even you don't know, you can get to know. So we want to engage stakeholders. And when you think about how the Greenway is laid out, there's a lot of neighborhoods on the north side and on the south side, and the university students and, you know, other things like that, where those stakeholders could get involved and coming out and working with their neighbors and talking about something other than politics or something, and just be outside in nature doing something productive. So we wanted to identify champions. We really need people in all of these different areas, whether it's in Vestal or Binghamton or any of these other municipalities that want to be champions and lead an effort to begin to enhance and care for the Two Rivers Greenway. We want to develop ultimately an organizational structure. We want to commit to a long-range strategy. We want to have, we're looking at now in the early stages of trying to find a way to house a website, because that's what everybody does now. Everybody Googles and looks and okay, you can go there. But for the Greenway, it would be really important to be able to show the maps, to be able to post events that are there. You know, think about Otsoningo Park, how much goes on in Otsoningo Park. Okay, and that's really matured over the years in terms of being an element of the Greenway. There's events there, people care for it. The county does a great job of maintaining it. We widened the lower section of it. We extended the new part to get you up to the Northgate Plaza. So that over the last 12, 15 years has really matured. And I think it's the most used county park in the system. So again, that's, for me, that's kind of an example of what all these other elements, whether it's Route 434, or whether it's Vestal Rationale, that could continue to grow and continue to be enhanced over time. So trail maintenance, that's one of the things. You can see all these happy volunteers here that got out and cleaned up. And we're just talking about light maintenance. We're talking about litter, vegetation removal, graffiti removal, things like that. And we've had great success. These two photos here, this one here and this one here were the United Way's Day of Caring that we did down along the Shenango River Promenade. That one in the upper right-hand corner was just recently, and the one on the left there was recently cleaning the 434 Greenway, because just between me, you, and a whitewash fence, that's an awful design over there. The box beam guide rail they put in there, and they put some wire mesh at the bottom, and all it does is catch all the garbage and all of the weeds grow through it, and you can't even get the weeds out of the wire mesh that's at the bottom of these guide rails. I'm sure everybody looks really nice there. So again, that's the type of maintenance that we're looking at doing. Just light maintenance with groups. Trail enhancements. These pictures here, you know, were some of the things we did. This looks familiar.
Yeah.
Anybody know where that?
Yeah.
Anybody know where that is?
Oh, yeah.
Geez, that looks like a pollinator garden.
It looked like pollinator.
Yeah, and this one, this picture, and this picture here were volunteer events that we did on the Shenango River Promenade going to Sherry Lindsay Park. There was no plantings, there was nothing, and we did 2 different volunteer days, 2 different years, and planted all the shrubbery, all the plants and everything that's up there. When we talk about enhancements too, we're also talking about what Vestal did. They saved the historic coal house, the Rounds Coal House, right? They did that, it becomes a wonderful trailhead. You know, it's good for people to understand the history that's interpreted in there. Peacemaker Stage, that was an enhancement that we did on the Shenango River Promenade. These public art is a big thing. I'm involved with the public arts group. These are from Rochester's Art Walk, which I'm kind of fond of that. They have a whole bunch of really cool public art on their art walk and Greenway in Rochester. So that's pretty cool. So again, I'm involved with the arts group. I'd love to see public art on the Greenway. We have, I mean, this is right at the Court Street Bridge, this mosaic that Emily Jablon did. This is the longest Shenango River Promenade just north of Peacemaker Stage. So again, a lot of opportunities to get a lot of different people involved in the Two Rivers Greenway, whether it's public art, whether it's enhancements, benches. You know, like I joked earlier, the Route 434, that whole section, there's not one bench, not one garbage can, not one pooper scooper station. So that's not good. Oh, what did we do? I gotta do that. I got it. No? Okay. All right. So again, also, education and advocacy. I think people are familiar with some BU students. They just put the Eagle viewer. If you haven't seen that, it's a excuse me.
Naturalist Club wasn't highly involved in that, right? Naturalist Club?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Is there anybody from the university here? No. I believe so. Yeah, no, it was really good. They went out, students got their own funds, worked with the city cited their viewer that they have there. It's right by between the baseball field and the Little League field at MacArthur Park, like the parking lot for the baseball field. If you walk out to the Greenway and you're coming this way toward the river, it's right there behind the backstop for the softball field, next to the new hardball field that they redid. And so because across the river, there's the Eagles Nest right there. So they have one of those viewers that they got and they set up and the city helped them put it in. So again, you were talking earlier about education and things like that and the younger generation. So get them out next to the river, get them out. You can interpret flora and fauna. That Eagle's Nest is right there. You can see that there. This was a fun thing that we did years ago. It was you know how they have the art walks and the first Fridays, we had some river crawl that we did. And this one was for people to bring their dogs and socialize their dogs. And this is up at the end of Water Street. And they walk from here up to Sherry Lindsay Park. And at Sherry Lindsay Park, we had some dog groomers and some people that did organic dog biscuits and all that. But all of these people came out for a river crawl to socialize and walk their dogs and walk from there up to Sherry Lindsay Park, just to help them see that this is a resource in your community that you can take advantage of and you can have some fun with it. So again, with all that's going on with the climate and everything, the opportunities to educate and get people outside, get them out with their neighbors and doing stuff is important. Now there's a couple slides here for, in 2012, I showed that slide earlier when we went back and we rebranded it and we had the consultant come up with the logo, okay? And we developed a design guide for all the signage. So whether it's, you know, like this is some wayfinding signs here, okay? There's interpretive signs, so you can interpret flora and fauna. And we ran into this recently where those BU students, they went out and they got their own sign. And they didn't use the design guide, you know? So they went out, and they're not bad signs, but they're not great signs either. We tried to kind of intercept that process, but God bless them. You know, they went ahead and they got the signs fabricated, and where the Eagle viewer is, okay, on the railing that's there, they placed 2 interpretive signs to talk about the eagles and about nesting and about the river and that kind of thing. So they're not bad signs, but they weren't as good as these signs. And they're even the signs they have over there for parking and stuff are not on the appropriate black posts. They're on these like polished aluminum kind of things, and they just don't look as good. That's just one of my gripes, so forgive me for that. But we developed a design guide so that as we move forward and more sections of the Greenway were developed, then we would put the signs, and it's a way of branding it. Okay, so when you go by, and I think everybody here has seen these signs, you know what those signs are. Okay, and it was very interesting during this process when we came up with this logo, which we took a lot of heat for, because it's like the egret, but the egret's not white, it's like blue. People say, why isn't it blue in your things? And they sent all these comments in, but it was interesting when he developed this logo, that one thing I didn't realize was when you develop a logo, it needs to be workable at all different scales. So could it be on a big sign? Yes. Could it be on a smaller sign? Okay, yes. Could it be a hat? Could it be on a shirt? And the consultant, they did a great job, because what we came up with works at all of those various scales. And again, here's some of the signs. I mean, these are you've seen these are beautiful signs, these interpretive signs and the wayfinding. I mean, I just think they're really great signs. And again, that's something that we came up with that we want to continue to do moving forward. So that's where we're at. That's I don't know if people realize that it was a study with a whole system that ultimately wanted to be interconnected. At my time at DOT, working with BTS, we really made an effort to engage individual municipalities. Said you have this, well, if you're gonna do another one, connect it to this existing one. Okay, so we can begin to build out. this. And like I said,
Put it in the basement, look out.
at this point in time, you know, we've got over 16 miles of this done, a lot of it contiguous along the Shenango River, now out to the university, Guttville Rail Trail, you know, they've extended it west, now they're extending it back east. And I think it's the Greenway's in a good place, so I'll open this up for any thoughts or ideas, any comments. And that's pretty much what I have. Yes, and then next.
When you had that initial meeting, was there any presence there from Binghamton University?
Yes.
Mark, if you could repeat questions, thanks.
Oh, okay, for those out there, there was a question that when we had our original stakeholder meeting, which was a couple of weeks ago, whether there was anyone from the university there, and yes, there was.
Yeah, my question is, my field is recreation, and thanks to Larry Blumberg, who I think is on, I did get to hike, walk the trail with the Triple Cities hike. So here's my question. I was on a fundraiser at the Mario Palmo Bridge, and they had a walkway. It was actually 2 lanes. And I said, well, why do they have 2 lanes? Well, one is for walking, the other was for bicycles. The bicycles came by 25, 30 miles an hour. So my question to you is, it's a multi-use thing, but for safety purposes, how do you someone can go too fast, it might be an unsafe situation. So has that been discussed?
Okay, so the question was basically around safety, and it's a multi-use trail. So you have cyclists, you have people walking, you know, now you have the e-scooters, you know, you have a lot of stuff going on. What's that? Rollerblading, okay. And again, I think that's another reason for the Friends group is because there needs to be a place where people can go to understand trail etiquette. Because it is dangerous. I've heard a lot of stories of people walking and not even looking and turn around if somebody misses them by inches. So it's a very good point. We've tried to get all of the pieces built to standards. So full 12 or 14 feet with a 1-foot shoulder off in the grass. So that lends itself to that. But again, it's more of user familiarity and trying to get the trail etiquette out there so people understand, you know, that if there's pedestrians and you're a cyclist, you need to pay attention, you know. So yeah, it's a really big issue, and I hope we can address the problem because we have so many people using it, you know, ultimately.
Well, my compliments to you for all the efforts of this years and years of development.
Right. And you know, one thing I forgot to say was that I had written down here was Greenways are seen first and foremost as transportation and recreational facilities. Okay, and we really want to promote that transportation aspect of it. That you could leave your car and ride out to the university if you wanted to. You could leave your car at home and ride downtown the first Friday if you wanted to. You know, so that's one of the things that we're trying to drive with this and with the Friends group. That first and foremost, it's a transportation facility and recreational. But also the other thing I wrote down, it's a third space. And by that, I mean that you have work and you have home. And then the Greenway can be a third space where you could create a pollinator garden, something crazy like that with people. Or there's other things that you could do on the Greenway, the walks, all the kinds of things that we have. So again, it could be that third space for people in the community. I had a hand here and then back there.
Yeah, just a comment on that. I've experienced conflict in both ways.
as being a cyclist and a pedestrian, and what I see is most of the time, it's actually the pedestrians that are creating most of the trouble, because sometimes they're walking 3, 4 across. They're taking the entire width of the trail, even if it's 10 or 12 feet. And that means that if you're a bicyclist coming up on them, you're gonna have to like say something to them to say, hey, can you please let us by? And-
Well, you have a bell on your bike, right?
And if they're listening to earbuds, they can't hear you, or they're talking with each other, they're not paying attention.
So Mark, just, I'm a former track runner, that's my whole thing. And what we used to do when we ran track was if the faster people were coming up on slower runners, we would just say track, with some kind of signal to say, hey, we're coming by. So maybe some simple. No, it's a safety issue. I don't want anything to happen.
Oh, no.
That's gonna be unsafe to people, but.
So for those online, the comment was that, you know, the pedestrians can be as egregious as the cyclists walking 4 abreast with their earbuds in or something. I don't know why you'd want to go out and walk with your friends and not be conversing, but anyway, in the back.
I know that last time was real, cold house. So at least they give you an up-down side, you know where you're supposed to be. So I just thought that was helpful.
So for those again online, the comment from the audience was that near the coal house on the Vessel Rail Trail, they strike the center line there, so it kind of differentiates. Yes.
On a number of rail trails that I've been on, and I can't remember if there are any yet on the Two Rivers. The entry points will have a prominent sign with some rules. And I can't remember if any of ours have that.
I don't think so. I don't think so. And I'll write that down so I remember that. Yes, and then, yeah.
Some of ours actually do. I know when I was living up north,
Yeah.
there are signs that say no motorized vehicles. And
Okay.
And there are a lot of motorized vehicles. on
Yeah,
there.
now,
A
yeah.
lot of them, and they're flying. I mean, they're dangerously fast. And they come up on people so fast that, I mean, I was on my bike, so many people were coming this way, and he just flew by me. I didn't hear him.
Right.
Not just e-bikes, you're taking mini bikes and everything with motor time, they're going up and down that stuff.
So for the people online, the question was about whether we could put signage that has the rules of the road, basically, about
But there are signs.
trail etiquette, yeah.
I got an argument with a guy who wanted to use motorized bicycles. We got a regular argument. He said, I paid more in taxes than you probably salary. I said, "Well, that's- he's entitled because he pays a lot of taxes. He said, yeah, if I'm paying taxes, I should be. I mean, I got a regular argument. No, it says no motorized vehicles and there's a sign right there.
The rules I'm referring to mainly though are the ones for the people that are supposed to be using it, pedestrians and cyclists.
Right, right.
Okay.
So, yes, sir.
That other
Oops.
rail trails don't have the same rules.
Well, again, that's something,
You can get about sites on the ones that are under. You're not supposed to use like a motorcycle, like a e-bike, okay? And also they use snowmobiles, and if, I don't know if anybody's aware of this, but if you walk on a snowmobile trail, they have to observe maybe 5 miles an hour. And that's state law. So, I mean, I guess people's expectations might be in line with the state.
but so again, for those online, you know, the discussions about e-bikes and speeds and etiquette and all of that stuff. But again, I think that's where a friends group could come in, okay, in terms of trying to standardize, at least for the Two Rivers Greenway, what the appropriate etiquette is. And also have a website where you could point people, as well as signage on the trail itself about what the appropriate etiquette is. And people will want to use it, go to the website, look, here's the rules of the road, so to speak, for how you're supposed to use the facility. So, sir.
Well, this is my original. As long as it's discussing, it seems to me that, does the state have any rules?
I think the question was, are there rules statewide or nationally for greenways? I think there are.
Well, I mean, those should be posted, and who's gonna enforce these rules?
See, I think that-
To have the signs,
Right.
but you know, you're gonna have fights, fight the signs, unless there's some enforcement.
So again, you know, for those online, the question was about, you know, to trail etiquette and who's gonna enforce that. And I think at the end of the day, in an ideal world, I'm not sure we live in an ideal world, but, or we ever did, but I think the more we can increase usage and increase awareness and have these conflicts come up. And that was one of the things for having a friends group where there's a website where, hey, I was at Otsonigo Park and this happened, they could send an email and there'd be somebody to field that. You know, we could begin to develop how this system could and should be used, right? And so again, the friends group with a website, you could do that, you know, and, you know, some people have talked about even actually having a nonprofit, you know, that kind of idea where, you know, you could write a grant and go and get some signs, right? If the municipality didn't have the money or whatever. But again, as we begin to think about this whole idea of what this asset could mean for our community, these are the kind of things that we're gonna have, because as soon as you have some bad experiences, that's gonna get all the attention, and then, you know, whatever's gonna happen.
I'm gonna tell you about my hair fight. So I was driving, I was coming from the south side of 434. I was some business. I was gonna try to make a left turn on 434. And I didn't even know there was this trailway. And I couldn't, I had to pull out to see both ways, and two bicyclists coming from the east. You know, I had thought, not intentionally, I did, and they gave me all of what for.
One finger salute.
I didn't try to tell them how many taxes I paid. I didn't. I was just embarrassed because I didn't know what that, but so it seems to me that had there been a sign saying you're crossing the Greenway, trailway, and, you know, have a stop sign from both ways, like a railroad crossing.
And I think there is a sign for that. I think the question was about being in a vehicle and coming up on bicyclists that were on the Greenway and not seeing them because there was no warning signs. So, again, I think there are signs like that crossing. I don't know if you're on Vestal Avenue or where you
I
are.
was just coming out of some business.
Oh, okay, okay. So, yeah, so those are things as we move forward to try and standardize and inform the public and, you know, help drivers understand. I mean, the whole goal of the Greenway was to reduce the number of conflict between vehicles and bicyclists and pedestrians. And, you know, that's why some of the sections are good, some of them aren't that good. You know, like that's a difficult situation at Vestal Avenue, at the western end of Vestal Avenue, getting across to go to University Plaza to go to the university, you know, so we try to minimize those, and as trails are developed, you're trying to do that because you want people to be safe. And unfortunately, the last 10 years, you know, I don't know why, but we've been killing more pedestrians and cyclists than we did 20 years ago. I mean, those numbers have been going down and now they're coming back up. So again, another reason to have separate trails. Yes.
You might want to look on your right there, see this, the rectangle, that's the chat.
Oh, okay.
The rest of the people that are online, you might want to answer some of their questions too. Give them a chance.
So are there any other plans upcoming in Owego? And how can we help advocate for the Greenway project? As far as Owego is concerned, I don't believe there is. Scott Regal and I used to meet with a group, Bikeable Walkable Owego. And they were very interested, and we got some on-road bike lanes done. We were involved when they built the riverfront promenade there. We did get shot down by the town of Tioga. Because in the original plan, if you're in Appalachian, where the boat launch is, you know, there was a plan to build along the north side of 1786 from Appalachian to Marshland Road on the east, and then from Marshland Road on the east to the western end of Marshland Road. And then you would have to come back on because there's no more room along the river. But at that time, and this is 20 years ago, 15 years ago, the town wasn't interested in being involved in something like that or committing funds to it. So what else do we have here? And how can you help advocate? Just talk to your elected officials, I would think. Is probably the best way to do it. I don't know at the moment if there's any other things planned in Owego. At one time, there was a desire to go from the river walk up the creek to the elementary school and high school area along that creek. But I don't know if that's still out there or not. Bill, you know, we've been looking at Parks and Trails in New York recently with the Friends Group because they do have grant funding. We would have to work with an individual municipality to pass the money through because we're not a nonprofit. But if the city of Binghamton or some other municipality wanted to do enhancements or to build something, Parks and Trails I know has grant opportunities. And right now, we're just trying to get out to other groups, just like the Sierra Club and other people that might be interested in supporting the Greenway. So as well as the individual municipalities. Christine, more crashes due to no more drivers educated. Well, drivers we know are idiots. I mean, what can we say? I mean, they just don't care. They're in their bubble. They just don't care. It's amazing to me. I know my daughter, she's a landscape architect and she lived in Saratoga Springs and used to ride her bike, and it was a struggle every day to get the 1.5 miles from her house to downtown to her office. So again, it's an education campaign. I think that, you know, public service announcements, different things like that, as we get more of this bill. I mean, I worked with DOT and it was a struggle, always fighting with civil engineers that were doing repaving jobs or new highway projects to get them to strike bike lanes, to include bike lanes, or they wanted to put a different material in the bike lanes, a coarser asphalt, you know, and obviously none of those guys ride bikes, okay, because they know that's stupid, right? But it was always a struggle, but we have made some progress. We ran into the whole issue of the, you know, milled-in roadway delineators that are along the edge of a lot of two-lane highways and things that have almost reduced runoff the road accidents by 100%. But if you're a biker and you got a narrow shoulder and you have the myards there, you know, it becomes a nightmare. You know, if you're in the highway and cars are coming, you want to get on the shoulder. So they started actually putting gaps in the myards so that cyclists could get off onto the shoulder. I think if you're interested in being more involved, you could contact me and I'll leave my information with the Sierra Club here and you can put it in your minutes or whatever. Someone could just send me an email or call me or have a cup of coffee and we could talk. So anything else we missed?
What's it for the trail?
Yes,
EMT still good contact for this project?
oh, absolutely. Yeah, Scott's still there. They're still involved. They manage, like I said, capital projects. So if municipalities are looking to do something, you know, it goes through BMTS, but Scott's still there. So, yeah.
I want to mention that everybody, I'm going to say this loud enough so you don't have, hopefully you don't have to repeat this for people online. But much of this is locally driven. So if you want to see your community, your village, your town do something, go to your village meeting, your town meeting, and they usually have a public input section at the beginning of the meeting and at the end of it. Sign up at the beginning and say, you want to speak. And they usually give you 3 minutes or so to speak and say, hey, I want to see you, the people that run this town, apply for grant money and extend trails and maybe give a suggestion as to where and how, and maybe coordinate it with this Two Rivers Greenway system. So if you want to make this happen and you want to see it happen, bring along a few friends and have them say the same thing too, and don't just do it at one meeting. Go back, a month later, another month, and keep bringing up the same thing. And offer to volunteer too, maybe start a committee, and then maybe it'll actually happen. Because a lot of these communities, their planning boards are already understaffed, and they are reluctant to take on anything new, especially if it's unfamiliar to them. So this is just a strong hint from me being involved in some of these meetings regarding various different things, even asking for trees in the town of Union. That was a battle to make that a Tree City USA, and that was to get grant money.
Sure.
People were actually against this on the town board. It was unfathomable to me, but yes, that's what happened. And eventually they said yes, but it took cajoling.
Right. And again, that's, we're always looking for ways to try and create community. Like we have a public art group, the Department of Public Art, and we engage neighborhoods. Okay, and we write grants and get money to paint murals and have events and placemaking events with neighborhoods. And people are always looking, how can you create community? And I think this skeleton of this network that we have in the area going through so many different neighborhoods and communities could be a source of people getting out in the community, doing something positive, enhancing the environment, seeing other people, being outside, doing work like that. So I think, that's one of the things we're trying to do with the Friends Group, is to just raise the profile of this and try and engage municipalities and then neighborhoods to take ownership of this stuff, because a lot of money's been spent to build these things. I mean, I get brokenhearted sometimes on the Shenango River Promenade when I see all the knotweed and the crackweeds, and I want to pull out my hair and stuff like that, but instead I go home and get my bucket and go down there and just pull it myself. So wait in the back.
Have they talked about anything on the Greenway?
Say that again.
There been any mention about voting access, including vote?
I had that in some notes. There's always been kayaking stuff that people wanted to do and put, even right downtown at Confluence Park where the pollinator garden is on the north side of the underpass under Memorial Bridge, that was originally intended to be a kayak launch spot. But again, that's something that if we could promote this a little more and get people in the municipalities, then, maybe they will put in a place for you to put your canoe in or put your kayak in.
We want to not say, besides the vote, put in. Just pick the worst part.
Right, right. Yeah, and at one time, people probably don't know this, but there was a study that was done, a feasibility study at the Rock Bottom Dam to create a whitewater canoeing place, and that they said there could be a regionally significant whitewater park because you have the hydraulic gradient to get the flows that you need because the water treatment plant's just upstream by Tompkins Street, right? So the river's up higher there. And just think about that. You come and stay in a hotel and kayak down past Confluence Park and go to Whitewater Park and go back to your hotel and go to downtown dinner. And, again, this is a tourism opportunity too, as well. Think about what they just did with the Harriet Tubman and the walking trail that's downtown, and there's signs along the Greenway behind the PU building, her statues there, so there's points of interest and things that you can continue to build on going forward. So yes, and then well, let me get back here first.
I was gonna add to that there's an actual kayak canoe launch at the Fort Dick Park, which is part of the continent.
Yes,
Which is part of the two-way river stream.
right.
They have a chain up, can't get to. You gotta hike you gotta drive your canoe to the parking lot down the river.
Wow. So I think that's the point up here, that someone needs to go talk to the mayor or somebody and say, why is this blocked off, right?
Yeah, they put one in, and.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's like I told them.
So how about one more question? I don't know what time you guys
Oh, we
usually
do.
get done.
We do have one more on mine.
Is there currently a suggested safe route for bikes to take between the east end of the Vestal Rail Trail and the west end of the Route 434 trail? No. No, Mark, no, there's not. I'm just gonna say right now, there's not. That's why the study and getting those connections are good. They've looked at trying to do something in the county to widen the shoulders on Vestal Road. but that's not really very practical. So there's not really a good way to get there. Other than if you have a off-road bike, maybe you could ride on the old railroad bed and then sneak across the Vessel Road and get back on it, and go west. But right now, I gotta say no. That's why this study is so important, to try and make that connection between Johnson City and Vestal and the university, so.
Yeah, so I wanted to mention that this system, especially if it gets this last central connection that you're talking about, that can include that railroad trail and the old towpath next to the river, they'll provide a more natural experience for people too, away from roads and next to the river. And crossing the river on that old railroad bridge, that's gonna be a fantastic thing that people will, it's gonna be a spectacular crossing if that actually happens.
Oh, no, yeah, the view shed
Yeah.
from the bridge is pretty spectacular. Yeah.
And this thing, even as it stands today, is an actual attraction for people that are looking to hire people. If somebody is recruiting somebody from outside the area, if you make this area more attractive, you provide recreational opportunities as well for young people, as well as people that are thinking about having maybe a child or so, and they don't want to bicycle on a road, especially these busy roads.
Right.
This is a big deal to have a connected network of trails. That's a huge thing. And
Yeah.
for people that just want to walk, if they're disabled and they're in a wheelchair or they're on crutches or whatever, this is just, it's really a big deal. And Ithaca has dozens
They've
of
done a
miles
great
of
job.
trails. But we are getting close to having a really good connected network of trails here.
Right, and what was brought out by one of the online folks is that connection. You know, how do we get there? And I was very disappointed, and I'll throw my former employer under the bus, because when DOT did the bridges in the 201 corridor over Vestal Road and Route 434, we had sidewalks on all of that. And we had connections to the university with like a spiral down onto the campus behind the event center. And we included the piece of the Greenway across the front of the university to connect it to 201, to get you up on there, avoid all that traffic and all that kind of stuff. And it was one of the few times that DOT where I lost my temper in a meeting and kind of went across the table, because we had a design engineer who was only there for a promotion. I'll just be honest. He was only there for a couple of years. And he said, when we were in final design for this project, this is a bridge project. It's a bridge project. It's a bridge project. It's not about bikes and pedestrians. And so they took all of that work out that we had. And now, how awful does that look now when you have the pharmacy school and you have the College of Nursing, and that whole corridor now could be much more bikeable, much more walkable from the university right to downtown Johnson City. So, you know, maybe we'll get around that now because we can get these other connections. And certainly, you know, I would encourage people and anybody who knows elected officials to support that study that the county is trying to get the funding for. Hopefully they'll get it, and then we could start down that path to try and do that. So, yeah, and I agree with you that employers, you know, they want their people go out at lunch and jog, young people, you know, whatever. I mean, someplace to walk. I'm like, I'll just vent. I'm a little disappointed with this new corporate park they want to build and plow over green space. You know, when we have hundreds of acres of vacant industrial land already in neighborhoods on bus lines with sewer and water, but
We are fighting that battle.
That's-
We're trying it, but we're spread thin too.
yeah.
And if we can get employers, existing employers, to be on the side of advocating to expand this greenway system and possibly even donate money.
Right.
That could mean a lot too. So that's something that maybe needs to be explored as well. So anybody in the audience that has time and they want to see this expand, there's an idea too. I know they're hard to contact because most of them don't even answer their phones anymore. Even my old workplace that are retired from, that you call up their phone number, nobody answers the phone.
So,
You know,
listen, I really appreciate all the time. I always joke with people, you can't save time, you can only spend it. So thank you for spending this time here tonight.
Thank
I
you.
just appreciate the opportunity, and Mike House wanted to be here tonight because he did want to compliment everybody about the pollinator garden. He being a landscape architect, and he had planned on being here tonight, so. I just wanted to pass that on, that he's very appreciative, and again, it's an example of what groups could do.
Yeah,
So, thank you.
and thank you for all the work that you've done on this over so many years. It means a lot, and for you to talk to us about this now too, it's a big deal, so thank you.
Thank you.